What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the PHDJ podcast with my man. There he is, Mike Walter, everybody.
How are you, sir?
I am Joe Bunn. I'm good. I'm all right,
Good.
man. Yeah, hanging in there. This is just for reference sake, being recorded on May 6th. We're recording 2 today because Mike and I, if you haven't listened last week, go back and listen to it. We're in story mode. We're in positive, non-coronavirus talking story mode. And we're reminiscing back over our 30 plus, not combined 30 plus, 60 plus years of experience doing shows. And Mike had this idea to kind of bring some of our most favorite memories to the podcast airwaves. So that's what we're doing. And then
so you use the word reminiscing.
Yeah.
Which that makes me think of that song. Do you know?
Yeah.
Walking through the park.
Yeah. And reminisce.
You know who does it?
Hell no.
That's Little River Band.
Oh yeah.
Hurry, don't be late.
I would have never. You could have put a gun to my head and I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always on like a yacht rock soundtrack.
Right.
I feel
that's one of those easy listening kind of mid-70s kind of.
Yeah, it's the first one that goes up on Spotify. Sorry.
Yep.
What else? Oh, was Cool Change good? Hold on. Sorry. I'm just trying to think about what other. Oh, have you heard about the Lonesome Loser? That's the same band.
Yeah, that's
okay.
right. That's
I'm trying to think.
Too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. They had a couple bangers.
They had a few. Yeah, they had a run in the 70s. That's right.
Anyway, so
more stories.
More stories. So I told Mike I had found this little book I wrote for my parents, even with my original logo. If you're not watching on video, it's classic. I think it was me, like as a puppeteer, controlling people dancing. I love that logo.
And before we started recording, I said to Joe, he's got to digitize that and get it out for the.
I think I do as well. I do as well. You guys would love it. It's poorly written, like most of my articles are.
And
but
it's funny you said your impetus to that was your parents told you should write a book, and
yeah,
I think hasn't everyone been told that at some point?
Of course.
We tell these stories from our events, and then someone goes, "You should write a book." So instead of writing a book, Joe and I are doing a podcast.
Yeah. Well, actually, Mike has written several. I guess I created the vault instead of writing a book. I don't know. It was. I never could do it. Mike has that's a big ass book, Mike. That undertaking alone, and then the accompanying audio recording was like, I was more proud of you for pulling the audio off than anything else, I think.
Yeah.
We're talking about this day in music. On this date in music.
You know, like the book, you can use it to kill somebody.
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's got more heft than the Bible at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I led off last time. Mike, you want to lead off this time?
So I was doing I think it was a 50th birthday party a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a surprise party that the wife planned for her husband. And she told me in advance she was going to have a stripper come in. So I get notice that the strippers arrived. And this is back in the day of CDs, because the stripper's assistant gave me this, and I already blew the punchline here, right? Gave me the CD and said, play this, blah, blah, blah. So I make the announcement, and listen, this stripper was smoking hot, and no one had told me what the reveal was going to be at the end. So I play the song, and it's probably like a 12-minute track, and she does this whole routine, gets him seated, takes his tie off, does the thing, down to a G-string and pasties. And at the very end, she takes her wig off and goes, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. And deeper voice than me. It was a dude the whole time. And dude, your face, I wish everyone could see, because that was the dude's, and mine too, because I had no clue. This chick, stripper, was so, you never would have freaking known. Ever.
Wow.
She was gorgeous. And the tits and everything. But she was a man, and it was shocking to everybody in the room. The dude was like, oh, because the dude's probably sitting there with half a chub.
Sure.
and now realizing he got it
Most
over a guy.
PC episode
it was
ever.
Amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm
Yeah.
crying.
Never forget that.
So really the only person that probably knew was his wife that hired this person.
Was the wife who hired. Yeah. And she didn't tell me. She said,
Right.
so you know, I've got a stripper showing up halfway through. They're going to give you music. And I was like, great. Yeah.
Oh,
and it was amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unforgettable. Truly. All right. I'll start with another one of my sentimental ones. Man, this had to be, sometimes I think about years in terms of how many offices ago it was. So, and each office, I feel like I'm usually in about 3 or 4 years.
Oh my God, Joe, I do the same thing.
Do you really?
When I talk to my DJs, I'm like, wait, did that happen in the corner office?
Yes.
Or the one on Marie? Yeah, all the time, dude, all the time.
All right, good. Well, I don't feel so bad. So this probably was, golly, 10, 12 years ago, early Bunn DJ company, but we still had, half a dozen guys. And I remember it was big. Still, the phone was a big thing instead of email and, texting. And I remember walking out. At that time, I did have a full-time employee, this girl, Christina. She had left, and I was walking out for the day, and the phone rang. And I reluctantly picked it up, Bunn DJ Company, and this lady is almost in tears, and she says, it was right around Halloween, end of October. Hey, this is the Harnett County, which is near here. I don't know, 45 minutes away. And I don't remember what it was called, Special Needs Center or something like that. And our DJ just pulled out, and these kids and young adults are going to be so upset that they can't have their Halloween party. And I said, when? And she said, today. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, like, in an hour. And I said, I'll try and call some people. And I look at my watch. I'm just like, dude, just go do it. And I got my car, and I mean, I'm telling you, I was hauling because I mean, She said this thing starts at 5:00, and I think it was 4 when I left. It was 40 minutes away, something like that. Get there, throw my stuff up on the stage. It's at a kind of like from what I remember, there was a stage, maybe like a rec center, or a gym at this center for these. It was mostly young adults, really. Most of them had Down syndrome, and
you okay? You getting choked up?
No.
Oh, man. Oh, dude.
Anyway, I just remember, damn it. I remember playing like the first few songs backwards, facing the back wall because I was so worse than I am right now.
Right.
They were so stoked. I mean, they had their costumes on.
Right.
The music's playing. They're going nuts. They know the dance, YMCA. They know all the whatever the dances were at the time. And I honestly was like, this. Can you imagine not picking up the phone? Right. Can you imagine this party without a DJ? Can you imagine if I had just been like, nah, I can't get there in time? Like all the things ran through my head. I was like, I don't even know that she paid me. If she did pay me, it was probably $100. Right. I probably gave it back to her. Like I was like, this was one of the most rewarding, this has been, God, at least 12 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. And I'll never forget that. Like that phone call was like one of the smartest pickups I ever had, man. Those first few songs, I was like, I was so like overwhelmed and I guess happy that I was there, that I just had to, I played backwards. Like I would reach back, hit play and be like, yeah, I just got something in my eye here, a little allergy, but it was super emotional.
I have a good friend of mine in Queens who works for a group that takes care of special needs. And, so we do a gig for him every year. Yeah. And Kelly is the assistant on that because she, nice. I mean, that's her forte.
I was about to say that. I've always said.
I've done the gig personally a couple times, but sometimes I'm not available. But yeah, I mean, it is amazing to see special needs people it's pure joy. And especially
that's what I think.
They literally stand in front of the DJ booth and they're dancing and having fun. And you're right. I mean, you can't help but get emotional about it. So kudos to you.
And that was probably right when I also had probably my first child, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, like, you know, how it's hard to raise these kids, you know what I mean? And that's why they are at this center, you know what I mean? That they need that extra hand. They need their this help. And there's a special place in heaven for the people.
So now that you've teared up, I have one about crying too. I was working years ago.
I didn't tear up. The pollen here is crazy.
Yeah, I think it was the Wi-Fi that.
The Wi-Fi choked out.
Yeah, I was working with a female assistant, and during cocktail hour, the best man came in and he said, "Hey, do you have My Way?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." Frank Sinatra. Yeah, of course. He goes, "I will listen." At the end of my toast, he goes, "I'm just going to say, so this is for you, Dad, and I want you to start My Way." Great, no problem. Best man was the groom's brother. So best man starts his toast, and dude, it is a tearjerker. The father had just passed away, so their dad, and he talks about how their dad was such a great guy and blah, blah, blah. And there's not a dry eye in the room. And he ends the toast, and he ends it with, "So Dad, this one's for you." And nothing happens, no music. So I'm standing on the dance floor. I turn around, I look at my assistant. She's bawling tears, like no longer even paying attention to her job. But she had got, and I'm like, I forget who it was. I forget her name, but I'm like, hit the song. She's like, "Oh yeah." And she finally hits play. But like, she had gotten so
caught up in it. Yeah.
And I don't blame her. I mean, I was having a hard time, like, block it out, Mike, block it out. Don't cry. But I turned around and she just like mascara halfway down her face. It was awkward for a second, but it was also kind of funny. I had to laugh at it.
Oh man. Yeah. That I guess that one I'll throw in a bonus one because that reminds me of it. And Mike's heard this before when we used to do the workshop. I don't even know how I related it, but I had this big country West Virginia guy that worked for me. In fact, he did my personal wedding down in South Florida, 16 years ago now. And he ended up moving from Raleigh back to West Virginia. He was in the concrete business or something. And he would come back on the weekends and do a show. And he started getting really lax on his prep and just being ready. And he goes to a wedding. I promise this was not me. I'm not like playing this off because it's so bad.
Asking for a friend.
Right. I'm not. This did not happen to me. But this guy goes and does a wedding. And at the time, I think we were doing videography. That girl, Christina, was a videographer as well as my assistant. And she's shooting it. And she calls me after and she's like, "Yeah, you're going to have to let this guy go." And I'm like, "What happened?" And she tells me the story of he had a request, that song, I think it's Eric Clapton, "Tears in Heaven." You remember that song?
Yeah, sure.
And he had it on his sheet, to as a request or as a dedication, and didn't really obviously take accurate notes. And he hits, the play button, and he's like, "All right, this one's for Angel. Come on up here, girl. Come on up here." And like she said, the room just like the air gets sucked out of the room. And it was like the bride's dead daughter or something like that.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, and she just said, somebody runs up and like whispers in his ear, and he like transitioned to another song. But I called him in on Monday. I was like, "I got to fire you, man." And he's like, "Why?" And I said, "Dude, you did a dead baby shout out." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "A DBSO. You did a dead baby shout out at a wedding. You got to go." And from that moment on.
That's the kind of video, if Randy Bartlett ever got his hands on that, it would be in every seminar he ever did. Every single seminar.
Do your prep work, folks. Make sure you take accurate notes at the meeting and don't do a dead baby shout out ever.
Right. I feel like I might have told this story once on the podcast, but it's one of my favorites, although it's kind of embarrassing. And this goes back before my first marriage, so that's how long ago this was. I dated a girl for about 2 months, and then we broke up. But while we were dating, her brother booked me to do his wedding. So now, like a year later or whatever, I show up to do the wedding, and I don't even want to call her a girlfriend. I mean, it was 2 months. We dated. We had a couple days both. She's in the bridal party. I walk in the cocktail hour room. "Hey, Laura, it's good to see you again. How are you?" She looks fine now. I mean, dressed awesome. And she comes up to me. She goes, "You owe me a dance." She goes, "Remember, I got you this gig. You wouldn't even have this wedding if it wasn't for me." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course, of course. You owe me a dance." So during dinner, she comes up. Are you smart? Do you know the?
No, I don't know this.
I didn't know if I've ever. Told
I don't know this story.
So during dinner, she comes up to me. She goes, "I want my dance." And so everyone's sitting down. I got some background music playing, and I'm like, "Now? Yeah, I want my dance." All right, sure, no problem. So I walk out on the dance floor and we start slow dancing. And I'm trying to be professional slow dancing.
Right.
But she is like pressed up against me and starts like whispering in my ear, "I miss you so much. And we had such a great time together." And probably getting even a little bit more graphic, blah, blah, blah. And I wound up getting, shall we say, into it or whatever you want to call it.
I've never heard this story.
And then she like, and I'm sure she knew she did it to me. And then she's like, "Catch you later," and walks off the dance floor. So now I'm in middle of the dance floor. You know, tuxedo pants do not hide that type of thing all that well. And I got to get from there back behind the equipment. It was probably the longest 30-foot walk I've ever had to make. And I'm sure, my guess is that nobody in the room noticed, but I thought everybody in the room
right.
my boner. You know what I mean? I will never, ever forget that moment.
Oh my God. I've never heard that story. Yeah. I'm crying. I keep coming up with these bonus ones, man, but this is so fun, and I needed this so much. So I remember playing in this nightclub. This was definitely in Raleigh. So it was probably almost 20 years ago. Again, it wasn't a club. It was like a brewery with like a room in the back.
Right.
And they had the DJ up on this little 2-step DJ booth, not way up, but like a 2-step thing. And I remember I was dating Ainsley, but I had just gotten done dating another girl that lived out of town. And she shows up to this place, and we had, it was over, but I don't know. She came in hot, and she walks, just casually into the DJ booth, walks up these 2 steps and takes a full pint of beer and splashes it in my face. I mean, the club is packed. I'm soaked. I mean, like soaked in beer.
Well, you must have done her wrong, huh?
What? I mean, it's cold. I'm embarrassed. Like the place is packed out. Like there was a line out the door to get in this place.
Right.
So I'm like, and my reaction is like I shove her, not like violent, but like shove. And it's tiny, and she takes a couple steps back and falls out of this booth.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, and the music's playing, the place is crazy. All my friends are lined up against the wall beside these 2 steps. So they see it all. So I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I run down these 2 steps and I hold out my hand, like, get up. This is getting crazy. And she looks at me, and like, before it happens, I already know it. And like, she looks at me like, I got you now. And she hit me in the face harder than anybody has ever hit me in the face. And I'm talking, and when I'm saying 6 of my buddies were just like, oh my God. And I just waved to the security guy over by the door across the room. I'm like, get over here and get this girl out. This is like out of control. I'm getting beat up, soaked in beer. Like, how much more abuse can I take before security comes up here?
Right.
I will never forget that as long as I live.
I'm so glad I never did clubs. That sounds
every bad story it is club related.
Right. It's a quickie, but I'll never forget this. Corey and I were doing a corporate gig. It was the summertime, and it was on a boat in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And when we first loaded in, it was kind of drizzly out. So we set up inside the boat, and we were going to run one speaker outside. Because they said if it clears up, they might go outside.
Like a ferry? Like what do you mean a boat? Like,
no, it was like just a boat. It was like a ship around Manhattan. That we do those from time. There are weddings on boats around Manhattan and stuff like that. And they had just chartered this boat to take this, But so then it turned out the weather changed and it was gorgeous out. Mm-hmm. So now we have gear. on the main, inside, but nobody's inside. Everybody's outside. And all we have is one speaker up there. So we kept taking turns. Corey or I would go upstairs and be outside, and the other one would be downstairs. And we were making announcements to just tell the guy what you want, and he was texting it down. So, like, when Corey was up there, he would get her, and he would text the request down to me. Oh, play blah blah blah, play blah blah blah, or make this announcement, dedicate this song to so and so. And then a half hour would change, and Corey would come downstairs, and I would go. And I remember that gig because it was so different and fun.
Yeah,
and it was a perfect basically going around Manhattan in a boat. It's a pretty
that's
cool experience.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And I just remember Corey and I texting each other requests from up on the deck. It was kind of one of those cool moments.
My last two are Carolina related, where I went to school at UNC. And I remember when I started there, it would have been like 90. I went to school 94 through 98. I was given like an ultimatum by my dad, like, I'll pay for 4 years, but if you go one day past that, it's on you. Right. So I was fortunate enough in that they took care of that. And I think the second year I was there, somebody found out I was a DJ, almost as a joke. They put me on, and it just took off from there. And at that time, I still had that original sound system and trailer. And the trailer was 100%.
That you bought from the guy whose name.
That I bought from the guy that I bought, right, that I mentioned in the last episode. Sorry. But it was 100% homemade. This was not like, the trailers me and you have had over the years that we hook up to our SUV. No, this thing was straight homemade wood and some like iron frame. And I don't know if I had the wrong size ball on the hitch on my I think I had one of those Chevy Blazers. But I remember leaving where I parked it one day, going to a show, and out of the corner of my eye to my left, I see something, and I thought it was a guy passing me, and I look, and it's the freaking trailer has come off, and it's going, and I think I whipped the corner, and it came off the ball. I didn't have those safety chains on, of course.
Right.
It pulled the wiring harness out, and then it's just cruising on by me. And I was like, oh my God. And luckily it went into an embankment. I pulled over, reattached it, and kind of got it back on. But it happened more than one time, if you can believe that. And finally I was like, I think I got to get a proper trailer, or something's not working here.
Wow.
But anyway, that I'll never forget that ancient trailer coming off and cruising by me. The end of that story, the end of that trailer was I was going to. I remember I would say I was going on tour sometimes, and I would do like these college stops. So I went to Davidson College in the western part of North Carolina, and I remember it was dusk, and, I was going to do this frat party, probably started at 10 or 11, and the sun's going down, and all of a sudden I look in my side view mirror, and fire, not just sparks, are shooting out of the bearings on each side of this thing into the other lanes. Like, It looks like fireworks. And I'm like, oh my God, please make it, because as usual, young Joe Bunn was just coming in hot, like probably had 30 minutes left before the party started. And I get there. I mean, the thing is literally smoking. I pull up in the front yard of this frat house, load in my gear. And I remember the next morning I had to get up and drive to South Carolina to a different college show. So I just abandoned it. I pulled the license plate off of it and just left it in their front yard. Because I
put all your gear in there?
Oh no. I went to U-Haul, got another, one of their trailers, came, backed it up to it, put all my stuff in there, and just abandoned it. Because it didn't have any branding on it. It didn't have a license plate. It didn't have a VIN number because it was homemade.
Right.
So about 2 weeks later, I get a call. Sir, is this Joe Bunn? Yes. This is Davidson Campus Police. I was like, oh no. And she's like, did you leave a silver, I think it was painted silver at the time, silver trailer at the Theta Lambda front yard, 2 weeks ago? And I was like, yes, ma'am. The bearings blew out, blah, blah, blah. So I'm so sorry. Please don't ticket me, whatever. Is it in the impound? She goes, no, my husband wants it. Can he have it? I was like, hell yeah. And she goes, can you send me the title? I was like, there is no title. It's homemade. Like, I don't even know that he's going to get it off that property.
Right. And certainly not going to pass any kind of.
No, it was not roadworthy at that point.
So what do you got? One more?
I got one more.
I'll do one more.
Okay.
It's a cute one.
Okay.
I was doing a ceremony a number of years ago, just providing the music, not officiating. And they get to the ring portion. Yeah. And the officiant says to the best man, "Do you have the rings?" And he goes, "Yeah, like this." And he starts patting his pockets. And he goes, "No, I gave them to my wife." So a woman stands up in the crowd and she goes, "Oh yeah, honey, I got them right here in my pocketbook." And she looks in the pocketbook and she goes, "No, I gave them to John." And some guy on the other end of the ceremony sitting down, he stands up and he goes, yeah, I got them in my pocket. No, wait, I gave them to Betty. And by the time everybody kind of caught on that this was a routine and they had this all planned out, literally there were 12 people like patting their pockets going, "No, wait, didn't I give it to you? And didn't I give it to you?" And then finally the one person went, "Wait, the best man, I think you put him in your shoe or something." And he bends down and goes, "Oh yeah, I do have him after all that." And it was it was so funny. And you could tell they were all very good at acting their part. Right. Because it took for the first couple of minutes, you're like, what's going on right now? What is going on? But then you caught on and you're like, oh, these people, it was brilliant the way they did.
I like that. I thought you were going to say they ended up like putting it on like the dogs, like on a collar and sending him down the aisle.
Out that the best man had it the whole time. But it was hysterical the way it had it.
I actually like that, man. I would totally pitch that. The right couple would think that was amazing.
Yeah.
My last one,
bring it home with a good one.
My last one is another frat era. And so again, like 95 through probably 99, Mike, I was the king of the frats. Like that was my go-to gig at Chapel Hill. And then it expanded to here in Raleigh, which is only about 30 minutes away, to NC State. And I would get called almost every night of the week, Mike. And I would usually start at 2 a.m. and play to 6.
Wow.
After the bars closed. And I remember this particular one, to be honest, I think this could have been when I moved to Wilmington and started that hat and t-shirt company. And they said, "Hey, would you be willing to come back to Raleigh?" Yeah, it was. And so, "Would you be willing to come back to Raleigh and do this frat party?" I said, yeah. So I rounded up the guys that I lived with at the time. I think there was 3 of them. And, back then, all you had to do to round up a road crew or people to, take a 2-hour drive with you or to set up your gear with you was a case of beer.
Yeah.
You packed a cooler full of
beer. And
yeah, bro. Sure. Yeah, y'all want to ride to Raleigh? Hell yeah, man. We'll ride to Raleigh and talk to some girls and stuff. Yeah, these guys were like, we were living at the beach. These guys were working outdoors. Everybody's all tan. Like good-looking dudes. Right. And we pull up to this party and we start loading in and I'm like, I start looking around. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, this is not good. And like everybody's in like coat and tie. And it turns out it was like a semi-formal at this frat house. It's not like a, kegger drink beer thing.
Right.
So they're, the guys are kind of mad because it's not going to just be like it's like a date function now. And it's not going to be just girls at this Joe Bunn frat party. So I start playing and they're kind of just drinking beer, hanging up on stage with me. A couple of them disappear and I'm like, what's going on? And all of a sudden this guy comes up and is like, "You got to go." And I was like, I'm in the middle of the party. Like, "You got to go. Your boys are out of control." So I'm like, I don't understand. They're like, "Man, they're just messing with our girls and blah, blah, blah." So I'm like, all right, man, I'll go. And so I literally like start basically packing up under this like duress. And as I'm packing up, I run out of the car and I'm like, trying to open the trailer up and stuff like that. There's a guy in the front seat of the car with a girl. I don't want to say what they were doing, but I'm like, maybe I just almost said his name. I'm like, "Bro, we have to go like now. Wrap that up. Help me get this gear out of here. It's getting ready to get crazy." Like right. They're like actually pissed off. I promise you, Mike, I don't coil up the cables. I'm running. I don't put a
Which,
thing
by the way, if you don't know Joe Bunn not coiling cables, you know it's serious.
It is serious. Yeah. Like no covers are on the gear. Like I'm throwing shit in this trailer, just stacking it up, stack. I'm like, "Guys, jump in the back of the car right now." I promise you, Mike, we pull out of the yard of this frat house on 2 wheels, trailers whipping side, and they're whipping bottles off the deck at the car. Wham, wham, wham. Trailer, all you can hear is beer bottles in the car. Get that. I was like, I will never be asked to come back to the blah, blah, blah house again. And I don't think I ever was.
Wow.
Yeah. It was
good stuff.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good stuff. This is good, Joe. I think this is a good escape. I hope our listeners have enjoyed hearing our stories as much as we've enjoyed reliving them.
I may have shed a tear. We had some laughs. This was a damn good episode,
good.
Mike.
Very good.
Thanks, brother. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. Everybody hang in there and keep on listening to us. And we'll have some business tips coming soon, but every once in a while you gotta just escape. Yeah, good escape. Thank you guys.